Oh, you want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim?
Cross your eyes and scream, man. Scream for your life.
Welcome, Scream Things. I'm your host, Jenica Olin. This is my 36th episode, and for July, we're getting into the late 90s teen slashers with a theme I'm calling Summer Slashfest. 4 friends bound by a deadly secret find their lives unraveling after a tragic accident on a coastal highway one summer night. In a panic, they make a pact to never speak of what happened. A year later, what starts as anonymous threats quickly turns into bloodshed. If you're new here, each episode will have an intro, brief synopsis of the movie, an analysis of the film, and then I get into the true horrors of it all. Spoiler alert, I've made it my job to spoil the shit out of this movie. Today, I'll be covering the 1997 I Know What You Did Last Summer, directed by Jim Gillespie, written by Kevin Williamson and Lois Duncan, starring Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Felipe, and Freddie Prinze Jr. The estimated budget is $17 million. The estimated gross was $125 million. The tagline for this film, "He's got a hook on you." Some quick trivia. The group goes to Dawson's Beach. This is a reference to Dawson's Creek, 1998, also written by Kevin Williamson. Sarah Michelle Gellar co-starred in this film with now husband, Freddie Prinze Jr., as they first met while filming this movie. The urban legend discussion at Dawson's Beach by Ray, Julie, Helen, and Barry is the boyfriend's death story, and all 4 of their versions are alternate variations of this urban legend. The original story being the hook in the car door campfire story, which did not feature the death of either the boyfriend or girlfriend. Kevin Williamson's own father had been a fisherman in real life and wore a slicker similar to that of the killer. This is what inspired the killer's outfit in this film. Let's set the scene with the synopsis of the movie.
For the last year, 4 friends have kept a secret.
Are you on drugs?
No.
Well, then what is wrong? I've had a rough year.
But not all secrets stay buried.
Somebody sent this to me. Oh my God.
Someone knows.
I know what you did last summer. Ooh.
What they thought would be a new beginning
Toast to us.
is becoming a dead end.
Somebody tried to kill you last night. We have to go to the police.
It's the 4th of July, 1996. In the small fishing town of Southport, North Carolina, 4 high school seniors, Julie, Ray, Helen, and Barry, are celebrating their last year of freedom. There's booze, fireworks, and talk of the future. But that all comes to a screeching halt when Ray, the designated driver, hits someone on a dark coastal road. Panic sets in fast. Barry's drunk. There's alcohol spilled in the car. And if the cops show up, it's over. When a friend named Max nearly stumbles on the scene, the group lies to cover it up, and then makes a choice that seals their fate. They dump the body off the pier into the dark Atlantic waters, but not before the man suddenly moves. Gasping for breath, Barry forces everyone to swear, "We take this to our graves."
We make a pact. Right here and now we take this to our grave.
1 year later, Julie returns home from college, emotionally wrecked and distant. That's when she gets the note. "I know what you did last summer." Reunited with Helen and Barry, Julie tries to retrace what happened. They all assume it must be Max. He saw them that night, didn't he? Barry threatens him hard, but then Max turns up dead, impaled on a hook in the shadows of the docks. Someone else knows. Someone who's hunting them down. The killer wears a dark fisherman's slicker and wields a massive ice hook. Barry's attacked at the gym and barely survives. Helen wakes up to find her hair butchered and the word "soon" scrawled on her vanity mirror. Julie finds a corpse in her trunk, only for it to vanish before anyone else can see it.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
Julie's investigation leads her to the family of a man named David Egan, the man they thought they killed. But something's off. David's already dead. His sister Missy mentioned a name, Billy Blue, who visited after David's death. Julie and Helen suspect he may be the stalker. As the town prepares for its annual 4th of July parade and pageant, the killer strikes again. Helen watches in horror as Barry is murdered on a balcony during her Croaker Queen coronation. She screams for help, but no one believes her. And then, as Helen fights for her life, she's stalked through an empty alleyway and killed just feet away from the cheering parade. Julie, digging deeper, uncovers the truth. The man they hit that night wasn't David Egan. It was Ben Willis, Susie's father. Susie died in a car crash the year before, and Ben, in a grief-stricken rage, killed David, then was hit by the teens on his way home after committing the murder. He survived, and now he wants revenge. When Julie confronts Ray at the docks, she sees the name of his fishing boat, Billy Blue. She panics thinking it's him, until Ben shows up and whisks her away on his boat.
4th of July, Julie.
Please, it was an accident.
Ben's boat is a floating mausoleum, filled with clippings and photos of the group. Julie stumbles into a fish locker and finds Helen and Barry's corpses inside, in a final fight, and manages to save Julie, using the rigging to send Ben overboard. His arm, still holding the hook, is severed in the process. But it's not over. The police never find Ben's body. A year later, Julie's back at college, doing better, until she steps into a steamy shower room and sees a message on the glass. I still know. Ben crashes through the mirror in the final unforgettable jump scare. Now it's time to talk horror, and my guest today is Justin from Pop Culture Reflections. How are you doing, and where can people find you?
I am doing great. Thank you for inviting me on. Since I had you on my show a little while back, I've been looking forward to coming here, so I really appreciate it. As far as where people can find me, I'm on all the main socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. I'm also on X. I don't really go on there much, but I at least try to post some updates about the show on all those places. So you can definitely check me out everywhere. But Instagram's probably the best place to kind of follow the show, where I post the most amount of updates and interactions there. But yeah, Pop Culture Reflections Pod. If you search that, you should be able to find me anywhere there. As far as the podcast, it's available on all the main podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, iHeart, Good Pods, all those places.
What are you working on currently?
So I'm working on a lot because I have made it a point this year to get out ahead of things and be ahead of schedule, because last year was like my first full year after the relaunch of my podcast, when I kind of redid everything. And I found myself last year being behind the 8 ball. This year, it's the opposite. I am so far ahead. I've been working on a lot of films. I've been doing a lot of music. I have a sub-series with Greg Hoey, another member of the network I'm part of, where we've been delving into some like music discovery and, comparing and contrasting filmmakers and stuff like that. So I have a lot of that stuff coming out really soon, or will be out.
So today we are talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer, which we know they're remaking this movie. It's coming out this month. We've got urban legends and small town lore starting this movie off. We've got this group of friends, and they all kind of play a role. Like Julie is kind of like she's like your girl next door. We've got Helen, who's like the popular girl, prom queen type. Barry is our macho, like jock character stereotype.
Yeah, you could also call him resident douchebag too, if you want.
Oh, no. I think it's everyone's opinion. He is the most unlikable character in this movie. He's such an asshole. And then Ray is our sweet, like,
He's just very safe. He's like your mama's boy almost. I don't know. If I was going to put a stereotype on it, do you
Mm-hmm.
agree?
I actually do agree. Absolutely. He's and I don't mean this in the wrong way, but he's almost like that dim-witted, clueless type of character that you get. It's kind of a trope, especially at this time, but it kind of works for Freddie Prinze Jr., so I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah, I had the biggest crush on him growing up. Just FYI, like I was obsessed with Freddie Prinze Jr. and I love
Mhm.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. So whenever they got together, I was like my two favorite people. I was so happy.
Yep.
I'm still happy for them. They're still married. They're still going strong. Like
Hmm.
they're awesome. Probably my favorite Hollywood couple.
Yeah, they are great. I love them for that. And one thing I want to say real quick, since you kind of described the main characters, the main cast, one thing
Mhm.
that I feel like is a strength of this movie is for, good, bad, or indifferent for each of these characters and your opinions of them. I feel like they really do tap into like those real life characters that we all knew from our teenage years. We all knew these type of characters. So I might have opinions on how these characters are performed by the actors in this movie, which we'll talk about at some point. But I at
Mhm.
least think, as far as the writing of these characters, I think they are very believable as far as what we know as, as teenagers at that time.
I agree very much. We all know that group,
Hmm.
those couples that hang out all the time, and they're best friends, and their boyfriends then have to be friends because you know your girlfriends are best friends, so you better
Exactly.
get with it.
Absolutely. Yep.
So the urban legend is called the Hook, and if it wasn't for this movie, I would have never known about this urban legend. Had you ever heard about it?
Honestly, I don't think so. It was this movie, and then there was I don't know if it was the movie Urban Legends or a movie called Campfire Tales, where I think they kind of talked about this same urban legend in one of those two films.
Apparently, it's a couple is parked at Lover's Lane when they hear a radio broadcast warning that a dangerous escaped convict with a hook for a hand is on the loose nearby. Spooked, they leave in a panic. When they arrive home, they discover a bloody hook hanging from the car door handle. And this tale sets the tone for the film's themes of like guilt, consequences, and urban legends manifesting into real life horror. While it starts as a scary story, the movie plays on the same structure, like teenagers doing something reckless, keeping a dark secret, and being stalked by a killer with a fisherman's slicker and a hook for a hand.
Hmm.
So they frame it very nicely like that in the beginning for us.
Hmm. They sure do. And the only urban legend that would be more horrifying to discover that you are experiencing at the time is the one with the dude that shoves the shitty baby diaper in the tailpipe. I'm kidding. It doesn't really exist. I'm just
I was
fucking
gonna
around.
say, I don't know that one. I feel like that's one of those things. There's like a term for it with like memory and especially urban legends. Like everyone
Hmm.
remembers it a little bit different, and you can kind of like implant memories this way.
Like a Mandela effect, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Really
Hmm.
fucks with you. And they all kind of have a different version of it too. Even like they're saying the story around the campfire, and it's that same, it's like the Mandela effect. They all have a
Hmm.
different version, and they're like, no, 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 it goes like this, or no, it's this way.
Oh yeah, it's like gossip, in high school, how it goes from one person to the next, and by the time the story gets full circle, it's completely different.
Yeah, the grapevine. We've got our next events that happen. So, like, they're all, this is very much a coming of age movie. I don't know how old you were when this came out. I was a little bit younger than them, but like, I was definitely in high schoolish age or about to be. Actually, I think I was still in middle school, but probably eighth grade. And so I, didn't quite relate to these characters, but I could see myself as these characters in like 3 years or something.
Yeah, yeah. I was 17, so like I could relate with them 100%. Like, and again, the actors were a little bit older, portraying younger characters. But
Mhm.
having said that, I think the characters are written realistically enough that I 100% like could relate to everyone. Even if I hated Barry and he was the opposite of what I was as a kid, and I am now.
Mhm.
I knew I had guys in school that were exactly like Barry. So yeah, I 100% could relate to everything about these characters.
I think that's what I love about this genre of horror with teen horror is because I was a teen at this time.
Mhm.
And so these movies were very relatable to me. And yeah, I feel like it was a good time for horror to be a teenager.
Absolutely. And like, listen, you said earlier about how you had such a big crush on Freddie Prinze Jr. I mean, what 17-year-old at that time was not in love with Jennifer Love Hewitt, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I was feeling all the feels at that time.
We've got our accident. So the central premise revolves around a group of teens who they accidentally kill someone and they cover it up, only to be haunted by their secret. And the film explores themes of guilt festering, the damage that does to your relationships, and how it changes you as a person inside out. Each character processes the trauma very differently, and we see later on how they deal with that. The accident itself, like, you know, we fucking hate Barry. He blames Ray for the accident when he's the one who was like up in the sunroof, right?
Hmm.
He's has like a bottle of whiskey or something that he's drinking straight out of. He's pouring whiskey on them. And even so, the character Julie, that's played by Jennifer Love Hewitt, she looks back at him and she says like alcoholic much or something.
Hmm. Yep, exactly.
And he's just being like a complete, arrogant, loud asshole. Honestly, I wish, it would have been great in the movie if when he got hit by the person that he like flew out as well. It's like,
Yes. Yeah, although that's what us as horror fans wanted, right? Because this guy's fucking awful. Like, he's the kind of character that us horror fans want him to be one of the fodder for getting killed off by the bad guy, and obviously eventually it happens. But here in this scene, we want that more than anything. Like, everything you said, like, I was tracking, and I have it in my notes too. Like, he's a narcissist, he's a
mhm,
ruthless prick, he's acting like an absolute dick while they're in the car. He's drinking like a fucking maniac. He's
mhm,
fucking with the radio from the back seat, right? And
mhm,
then like they hit this dude, and Barry just goes into complete manic fuckface mode. Just like, worst case scenario, we're gonna fry for this, taking control of everything. Ray should have just clocked this guy, knocked him out, threw him in the back of the car, and took care of this himself, because everything that escalates from this point is all because of Barry. And
mhm.
as a viewer, like, how can you not fucking hate him? And I get it that that's kind of the point. It's so fucking annoying. Like, watching it now, Janik, as an adult,
Yeah.
I am so fucking annoyed with this guy. And I'm thinking to myself, my worst nightmare would be having to spend time around this arrogant teenage prick. Like, that would be misery to me.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to do it. They let Barry bully them, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
And he was really the scary one in this situation. So we have a lot of the fears, and I kind of broke it down into their relationships and how their relationships broke apart after this. So we're set in like a small town, a small coastal town. So, like, that makes this kind of thing even worse because everyone
Mhm.
knows everyone and everyone knows everyone's business. This kind of thing would be huge news in the community and could really affect their future. And the movie taps into the fear of public shame. These teens aren't just afraid of being caught, they're afraid of how their futures, families, and reputation will be destroyed. The
Right.
pressure to maintain appearances plays a major role in their decision to cover up the crime. Like, even Ray goes along with it because he realizes, like, even though Barry's being dramatic, there is some truth to his rant,
Hmm.
and there is a fear there.
Yeah, and I think, like, the fact that you pointed out how it's this small coastal community. When you live in these kind of communities, like, you don't really think about the world outside of your existence in this small community, and how a lot of times you, as a teenager, like, all you want is to explore the world and get out of this. And like, now you're starting to think about how this one little thing could affect your life negatively going forward. And all you want is to turn back time and make it that it didn't happen, but you can't do that. So what do but try to hide this ugly truth? And it's very relatable, I think, for anybody that has ever been in a situation where, like I said, either you made one little mistake or you're with somebody and they make a mistake and you don't want it to destroy you as a person, your
Yeah.
reputation, your future. So you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice to protect myself and my future? And yeah, I think it's really something that I think really taps into our primal fears in a way. It's like,
Mhm.
we don't want it all taken away.
It's the I call it the just one mistake trope.
Hmm.
By insisting it was a one-time error, they're able to move on from it. They're able to repress it, repress that action, and play it off, whether it was a violent action or just something unethical. I mean, as you said, there are things we've all done that
Hmm.
we would rather not have done. I'm
Hmm.
sure, especially at this time in our lives when we were
Oh
teenagers. I'm not going to say what I did. That stuff is buried.
yeah, I
It's
got you.
at the bottom of a lake with the fishermen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do like things that we're ashamed of. Like, I don't know. Like, I lived an interesting life where I didn't really have a father around, so I learned a lot about life from people around me, and I think I was impressionable for that reason. Like, I would go along with people, so I feel a little like Ray in that way, where it's like I was never the ringleader. I was just kind of always along for the ride. So it's like it was never anything like really bad, obviously, nothing like this
Mhm.
clearly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like they would do things or say things that I didn't necessarily agree with.
Mhm.
Who was I to say anything or try to, go against everything? So I would just kind of like stay quiet and observe and hope that I never was involved in something that was so bad that, that I couldn't go back from.
Especially like with drunk driving type stuff, I think that's the biggest
Hmm.
for like if I could go back and never drive drunk or be in the car with someone who's drunk, which is plays into this. This is why they get into
Hmm.
the accident, right? But those times of just being so ignorant and thinking like that nothing's gonna happen, and thankfully nothing did ever happen, but like being fucking stupid as hell, something could have very easily.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And I listen, I was there too. I was young. I drank. I went to parties and I would drive afterwards and would know better. And thank God I kind of grew out of that pretty quickly. But, we all at that age kind of do stupid things and we don't really think about the repercussions.
I can't remember. Do you have kids?
I have one. Yet.
My daughter is 18 now. And I think that's one of my biggest fears is like her either driving drunk or getting in the car with someone drunk. And so I just always tell her, like, you don't have to feel ashamed of drinking or, giving into peer pressure but don't drink and drive. Like, I will come and get you. Like, I won't judge you. I'll put you to bed. I'll make sure you're
Hmm.
good. Like, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Just be safe.
Oh, I'm the same way. Like my daughter's 16, so she's like right, right there, right? And like
Mhm.
she's starting to get more freedom and she wants to drive and she's in sports, so she's around other girls. And it's like I always try to impart, make good decisions, make smart decisions. But just like you said, I know at times she's going to be around people and I can't control what they do or,
Mhm.
what their home life is like. And it's always like I'm always nervous about what she might get involved in with other people. But I'm the same way. It's like, listen, I'm not going to judge. Just be honest with me, reach out to me for help, and we'll figure it out. So, yeah, but it's scary just thinking about, especially watching this movie now when you have a child.
So I wanted to get into some of the characters really quick and just how they dealt with the guilt and the trauma of everything. We have Julie James, played by Jennifer Love Hewitt. She internalizes the guilt. She has extreme anxiety and she's obsessed with the truth. Julie is the most visibly affected. A year later, she's withdrawn, kind of consumed by it all. Like she's even avoided seeing her mom. She doesn't talk to her mom anymore. And you can tell, like, she's just really withdrawn from this town, from these people. Her grades are slipping, her relationships are strained, and she's haunted by it.
Yeah, well, I think that this story really required this type of character. Of the four characters, we needed this one. This one needed to be the central, focus of it. My
Hmm.
only issue though is back to what I said earlier about acting.
Hmm.
I don't think Jennifer Love Hewitt's very good here. Um,
Okay.
there's, yeah, I'm sorry. I loved her when I was younger, when I watched this back in the day. Being a horny teenager, let's face it, like I loved her, so she could do
Yeah.
no wrong, and I thought she was great. But rewatching it, and I've probably rewatched this movie, I don't know, 3 or 4 times in the last, I don't know, 20 years or something. I haven't watched it a ton, but I've had a few rewatches. But
Yeah.
watching it now as an adult and being a little bit more critical, I just don't think she's good. Like, I think her performance is very weak here. There's times where she has to be emotional and withdrawn, and I just don't buy it. Like, it's not believable. I don't think she has the likability, the adaptability, the bravery, resourcefulness that a great final girl has. And I think that's where I like struggle with it, because I know that technically, when we look at it just as a horror film, she's the final girl, and
Hmm.
she doesn't have any of those traits of a lot of the best final girls out there. And I don't think it's a victim of the writing. I think it's a victim of the performance, and I just don't think she nails it here.
I do actually agree with that. And I think there is a lot of conversation around the fact that she was not a good final girl. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people feel that way. I think you can portray a character in a few different ways, even with the same lines. And she definitely had this like deer in the headlights, meek, like, what am I to do? Who's going to save me? Why did you guys all do this to me? She's willing to take accountability, but she's not willing to take the steps to take accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a weird conundrum that she's in the middle of.
Yep.
And yeah, she isn't a very good final girl. I mean, she's beautiful
Yeah.
and she is very dramatic in certain scenes. And it's dramatic in not a final girl type of strong way.
Exactly. And when you compare, we I think we all know, like, this movie certainly was inspired by Scream. Like, this is one of the ones
Yes.
that came right after Scream. But when you compare, the character of Sidney Prescott and what Nev Campbell does with that role, with that character, when you
Mhm.
compare it to that, it's just so weak in so many
Yeah.
ways. And like I said, I do blame a lot of it on her acting prowess at that time. I just don't think it was strong enough. Like, I think she was okay in Party of Five. I think a sit. I don't know that it's necessarily a sitcom. It's a dramatic series, but I think a dramatic series on television where you have a lot of other characters and it's a
Yeah.
completely different type of story. I think it worked for her there, but this, I don't think she was ready for like a major role like this in a big blockbuster horror film.
There are interviews with her, and she talks about how she doesn't like horror. And
Hmm.
she really didn't play horror movies after this either. She's more of a rom-com girl.
Yeah, and to that point, like, Can't Hardly Wait's one of my favorite movies, and I'm not ashamed of it. I love Can't Hardly Wait. Like,
Yeah.
that's one of my movies from that era, and I thought she was great there. She was likable at that as that character in a
Hmm.
rom com, so that worked for her. Where I just don't think the emotions of that character, I just don't think she could really get there in this movie.
Yeah, this is just isn't her niche. And she knew that. That's why she only did this horror movie, and then she stayed with the franchise because
Hmm.
why wouldn't you? Everyone loved her, whether she was shitty or not, as this
Hmm.
character. So, yeah, I mean, okay, so the next character I have is Helen Shivers, who's played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, and we know she is a scream queen. Like, she is in so much horror. She's amazing in horror. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like, you can't get more scream queen material at this time than Sarah Michelle Gellar. Her character has to die because she's sinful,
Hmm.
basically. But her character would have been a way better final girl. She actually stood up for herself. She was a fighter. But I understand also why her character was killed off. I don't agree with it. If I could rewrite it, she would have been my final girl.
Yeah, well, no, you're absolutely right. She had all the great qualities of a final girl. But back to what you said, she also had the acting chops to actually be able to do the death scene effectively. So, like, I think that Sarah Michelle Gellar is phenomenal in this film. She not only looks great, her line delivery is on point. Her playing terror in this film is so effective. And she also, like you said earlier, she displays guts and a fighting spirit that's very believable. And even though she is like this, conceited type of character, she's still really fucking likable. And I think that might really be because of Geller herself. And I've said it even on my podcast, I've given her flowers that she rightfully deserves, because I think as a kid, I didn't appreciate her enough, or as a teenager and young adult, I didn't appreciate her enough. But going back and watching her now, man, she's just fucking awesome. I love her.
But okay, so she suppresses everything, and she kind of has this disillusionment. Helen, she tries to move forward by chasing her pageant dreams, but it hasn't panned out. She's working in her family store and living in a stifling environment. So, like, she's not happy. Her plans didn't pan out. She wanted to be a star. She wanted to go far. And she realized when she went to the big city, because I think she went to New York, she's just like all the other girls that want to be famous in New York. And she was very discouraged. And I think that was someone coming from a little small town, coastal town, to the big city. It's a big change. And so she's kind of beaten up a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
You can see her insecurities starting to show.
Yep.
She suppresses the trauma rather than facing it. So it eats away at her sense of identity and control. And I think it's mostly the control for her, because she was the it girl in high school. She had everything. To go from being the queen bee to just some other chick, that's an ego punch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a bitter pill to swallow for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with her acting, she does such a great job, even with her nonverbals in this movie, portraying that, for lack of a better term, loss of innocence. Like, she went from being the it girl to just another girl in a really fucked up situation.
I think it was her sister right before she gets her hair chopped off while she's sleeping, and she's like brushing her hair. And her sister looks at her and is like, "Oh, so pathetic." That was sad.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard.
Okay, so we've got Barry next. So Barry Cox, played by Ryan Felipe, but he's aggressive, he's in denial, and he just wants to control everything. Barry's the most defensive and confrontational. He insists that silence is survival. He channels his trauma into anger, yelling, threatening, and trying to dominate the group, which he does successfully. Like, he is willing to hurt others. He makes that very clear. And I already know you hate this character.
I hate this character, and like, I'm not even a big fan of the actor. I don't know about Philippi, and maybe it's that he's actually a really good actor, and he makes me fucking hate him so much. But
he was actually charged with physical abuse of one of his girlfriends. Actually, two people that he dated.
Good. Now I feel great about the fact I can't stand this guy. It makes perfect sense. Like, it tracks for me, because I think that's what I've always felt about him, is like, I think this is who he is in real life. I think he is a piece of shit. So it's really not acting. And I think that's why I don't think he's a great actor. I think he just kind of is himself. And because every movie I've ever seen him in, I can't fucking stand this guy, regardless if he's the bad guy, the protagonist, whatever it is, I can't fucking stand him.
Okay, I found it. So Ryan Felipe plays an abusive boyfriend, especially prone to violence and threatening the others, is harsh to watch in light of his ex-girlfriend, Elsie Hewitt, suing him for assault in 2017, and then another ex-girlfriend accusing him of harassment. So yeah, he's not a good guy.
Yeah. All right, great. Yeah, he's a shitty actor too, so.
Perfect. The icing on the cake. if he would have just died in that accident.
Exactly. He should have went right through the fucking windshield.
Yeah. Okay, so then we've got Ray, and we've already kind of talked about him a little bit. So his processing trauma is through isolation, avoidance, and quiet guilt. Ray distances himself from the group and relocates himself, works as a fisherman. He just really tries to keep his head down. He doesn't talk about anything with anyone. He avoids confrontation, hoping the past will stay buried. And when confronted, he appears conflicted and remorseful, but not proactive. Ray's guilt is quieter. He's super passive.
Yeah, this is I said it earlier and I'll say it again. This is the character I related to the most. Like I'm more of a leader now than I used to be. Like I've, gotten better leader skills now, but back then, like I was so Ray. Like I wanted to keep to myself. I didn't want to stand out. I just would have been just like him. I would have internalized everything. I would have wanted it to go away. And I just wanted to be anonymous. And so I feel like when I watch this movie, again, back to how I said, like, people have always shit on Freddie Prinze Jr. for not being a great actor. And listen, he's not a great actor, but he has a likability in everything I've seen him in, whether it's a comedy, whether
I've
it's
always
this.
loved him.
Exactly. So listen, if I like a person, I think that says a lot about who they are. So I give him a pass. I don't care that listen, I've said it before. Keanu Reeves is not a great actor, but I fucking love that guy. So you don't always have to be a great actor to be entertaining and to be able to do the job in a movie. And I think he does his part fine here. And like I said, more importantly to me is like, I can relate to this guy. When I watch this movie, he's the guy that like I hone into, and I'm like, I understand his plight. I understand what he's going through. And I feel really bad for this guy, probably more so than anybody. So for that reason and so many others, he is easily my favorite characters. As much as I love Helen and Sarah Michelle Gellar just fucking kills it, like there's no doubt Ray's my favorite character.
Yeah, I think with Keanu Reeves and with Freddie Prinze Jr., they're both genuinely good people.
Exactly.
And I think that is portrayed on screen. You just kind of sense that with them. So they've been able to go pretty far in the industry just off goodwill, I think.
Yeah, and the other thing about Freddie Prinze Jr., which I don't know how many people know, but I'm a pro wrestling fan. Freddie Prinze Jr. was a writer for the WWE for many years in, I think, the 2010s and even early 2020s. So I kind of like that about him, too, as a wrestling fan. I think that's kind of cool.
That's cool. I did not realize that. I like wrestling, but I don't follow it the way that I used to. Consequences and accountability is kind of like my next piece in here. The killer becomes a literal manifestation of retribution, reminding them and us that justice in some form comes for everyone. The only problem I have with this is that there is one innocent person that's killed, while the people responsible for the death at the start of the movie are only taunted. So Max is our first intentional kill, and his sin is just liking Julie. He just had a crush on Julie.
I don't know if you're the same way, but it's a horror film, so I kind of give it a pass, and I think it even is somewhere in the slasher subgenre, I guess we could say. But there's a lot of, like you said, about a lot of the themes that make it unique in slashers. And I kind of wish, at least this first film, we didn't have an innocent person dying, because I think it would have just leaned more into the realistic and believable story that's going on.
Yeah, what I was able to find is that initially Max wasn't supposed to die, because the book that this is based off, no one dies. There are no deaths in the book. But they realized that it wasn't as much of a horror movie if they didn't have someone killed in the beginning. It was like you had to set it up as this person was actually threatening, because everything that he was doing, like cutting someone's hair off while they're sleeping, what were the other things?
So, but yeah, like I think, so I know what you're saying. Like, I think a lot of it was like horror tropes that they had to get in here.
I don't think that Max's kill was necessary. I think they saw it as, if they didn't kill someone somewhere in the beginning of the movie, that no one would take this killer seriously. He'd just be seen as like a benign threat, just writing
Right, and
little notes. Like,
yeah, and because I think if they wouldn't have done that, this movie could have like been in that class of like psychological thriller instead.
yeah.
But I know they didn't want to market it that way.
So Barry Cox had to be the first one to die in the original group because he was the mastermind behind it all. If it wasn't for his reckless actions and drinking in the car, none of that would have happened in the first place. Even though he wanted to blame everyone else and like he was really fucking rude to Ray. And it pisses me off when I see him like, what did you do? Like yelling at him and like pushing him like, mm-mm, mm-mm. You're the asshole here.
Exactly. But and you know, it's like as much as we hate him for that, I think that's part of the movie that really works is that we almost need that character that we can all fucking hate. And that we as a viewer can kind of push it all back on Barry. And then we can feel things for Ray and Helen and Julie, you know, all the same because of that.
Yeah. And so Helen is killed because she's the supporter of an abusive person, basically. She herself only thinks about what it would do to her if others found out. As a couple, they're both extremely selfish. She shows little remorse for her involvement and would like it to just all go away. Her death is a direct result of her self-centered ego.
Can I talk real quick about her scene here?
Yeah.
I fucking love the parade scene. I think it is shot incredibly well. Like so first you're talking about the daytime shots of the parade, and then we get like we get the tracking shots, which are excellent, and then there's like really earned tension as Barry and Helen kind of look around at the crowd of, you know, looking around for him, the pending danger that is out there. And another thing I love about the sound editing with the marching band and the cheering crowd, and then the dramatic score kind of comes in as well. It's also done so well. Like these scenes at that point are intercut with these scenes of Julie going to visit Anne Heche's character. And I'm like, I remember thinking to myself, like, fuck no, go back to the parade, because that's where the good stuff's really happening, because it's so tense. It's so much fun. And then, you know, you fast forward a little bit to nighttime and we get Helen's death scene, and it's incredible. The use of lighting and shadows, Geller's screaming is fucking awesome. Her trying to pull herself up above the stage, and then her like running in the streets in the dark in the alley, and then the fireworks are going off, so the screen's lit up by that. And then, you know, it's going back and forth between dark and light from those fireworks. It's just incredible filmmaking as she's getting killed and like no one can hear her over the marching band and the fireworks. And again, the way that it's edited with both sound and the shots, easily the best scene in this film. Without going too far into it, there are things about this movie that are really fucking good.
Yeah.
And then there's some things that don't work for me. But this whole sequence with the parade, with Helen's death, and everything Geller does with it, all the lighting, the sound effects, the soundtrack, the score, all that.
No, I agree. It is very iconic. We get that jump scare with the killer just kind of standing there like he's a mannequin. This is the peak of the horror in this movie.
Yep.
This is where they get their horror title. If it wasn't for this scene, I don't think that I would necessarily classify it as horror.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, like for all the little things that do work in this movie, without this scene, this goes from being a movie that I do kind of enjoy going back to periodically. Without this whole sequence, I don't know that I would revisit it that much because I just don't think it's as effective without it.
I do agree. So Julie and Ray as a couple are your typical high school sweethearts, is what I have in here. It reads like she was a virgin until the night on the beach, as she worries about them growing apart after high school. And so their sins are not speaking up and doing the right thing. Julie is vocal about not being okay with covering up the crime and wanting to face the consequences, but she doesn't take the next step in that. And so this is the reason why she is our final girl, but like we said, not a great final girl. She is like the morally superior one to everyone else in the group. And while not nearly as moralistic as Julie, Ray would also like to do the right thing, but he's scared of consequences and he's being bullied by Barry. He accepts his fate. He's like, he plays dead type of thing.
The other thing that pisses me off real quick, just a side tangent.
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr. could so fucking take Philippi. So I don't know why the fuck he lets him bully him.
Yeah. He's just too nice.
Well, that and he doesn't want to like have conflict. And again, I guess I get that because I was the kind of the same way at that age. So
I kind of have a breakdown of their relationships as a whole. The pact they make slowly unravels their relationships. So the shared trauma fractures their bond, creating paranoia, suspicion, and isolation. It's a commentary on how secrets and lies destroy even the strongest relationships. So we come back a year later and none of them have talked to each other. None of them know what's going on. They're all basically, it's like they're strangers.
yeah, and again, this is good writing because this is very believable. I
Mhm.
can't imagine that you can take any four people, regardless of their relationships, regardless of how close they are, and have this type of secret, hanging over them, obviously doubled with guilt and all that as well. And
Mhm.
and then expect to not have paranoia and have that eating at you. Like you will get to the point where you can no longer trust anybody because you just know that the truth is going to come out. And
Mhm.
who's the first person to crack. So yeah, it's very believable in that way, and it's one of the aspects of the movie that I like the most.
Yeah, it's very realistic and like if you listen to true crime and stuff, they always say like if no one's spoken up, it was probably just one person who did it because you can't keep four people to keep a secret.
Never.
So just if you're going to commit murder, do it by yourself because otherwise you're getting caught. Julie and Ray are portrayed as sweet, almost idealistic couple. Their relationship is more emotionally sincere than Barry and Helen's, full of hope and plans and affection. Like they talk about their future together. And that's what makes it so sad that they end up not being together because you really wanted them to work in this movie.
Like you said, though, I think in the context of the story, there's no way the two of them can stay together.
Yeah.
Even with the events of this film, right? When they find that the guy came back, that he's not really dead, with everything that they've been through, there's no way they can have a sustainable relationship as much as we might want it. So I think again, it almost has to be that way.
Them making that pact creates a moral divide between them.
hmm
She's our moralistic one here, and she really sees the act as unforgivable, and Reyes rationalizes it as a mistake and they all made and something to move past. And I think for me, I think she loses respect for Ray, and she also doesn't trust him anymore. She doesn't trust what he's capable of. He was supposed to protect her and support her. And he let this happen and he didn't stop it.
hmm
And so when Julie returns home, she's cold and distant. She hasn't spoken to him in months. And when Ray reaches out, Julie doesn't want anything to do with him. I mean, I really think it is that, be a protector, be a caretaker. And he proved to not be that.
Right. And it's like in the most simplest forms, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I think that's how she sees him.
Yeah. Helen and Julie, like they appeared to have like a genuine friendship. They were probably friends since elementary school type thing. Julie is grounded academic while Helen is the ambitious pageant girl, but their differences seem to complement each other really well throughout the movie. After the hit and run, their dynamic steadily cracks. So Julie is visibly traumatized and morally conflicted, while Helen is more passive following Barry's lead. I think she ends up kind of blaming her for that. Why are you going along with this asshole? And I definitely had friends like this where we would have been really close and then I would have seen them make some kind of judgment call or follow someone that was so horribly wrong or did some really fucked up thing and I'm like, I can't be around you anymore that you're okay with this.
Yeah, well, yeah, to your point with all that, it's almost like you feel like you know the real person, and by them making that decision, it's not who they are. So the best thing you can do is distance yourself from them. And it's like funny when you brought up about making a pact, and you would think that when you make a pact with somebody, it's like bringing you closer together and making you a team. But
Mhm.
this has the opposite effect. The pact, it splits them all apart.
Mhm.
And it's just an interesting contrast. But yeah, you're right. Like I could see that where if I believe in somebody and you're going to walk away from me and go the direction that is the complete opposite of what I know you are and what is right. How could
Mhm.
I ever come back to you?
Yeah. And they kind of, during the movie, like when they're trying to investigate what exactly is going on, they kind of are rebuilding their relationship and reconnecting again, which is nice to see. All right, so the last thing I have in here is vengeance as justice. So we get into our killer, Ben Willis. Ben Willis represents the idea of personal vengeance masquerading as justice. His pursuit of the teens for what they did mirrors slasher tropes, but also raises the question like, can justice ever be truly served when it's motivated by vengeance? And then, as I had said before, I think it really takes away from the fact that this is a vengeance movie when you have him, his first kill was Max. This whole like line of reasoning kind of crumbles with that.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
I think there are some good kill scenes in this movie. They didn't want a lot of blood. So the movie is not very bloody. Like whenever they killed Helen at first, because they don't show it actually like slitting her throat. At first, they didn't even use fake blood, but doing test screenings, they were like, this doesn't look real. Like there would be blood. You have to have blood. They put blood in it and you see the blood splatter. They really didn't want to make it a gory movie. It's weird that it's a slasher and there's like not very much blood.
Yeah, and I think the movie's effective without the blood because, again, for Helen's death scene, a lot of it is shot in dark anyhow, other than the light of the fireworks. So I think it's a
Mhm.
very effective scene. But the problem you have as a studio, and you're appealing to an audience that goes for blood and guts and loves that type of stuff in a slasher and a horror film. Because again, I think it's effective without it. Because when I think about this movie, to be honest with you, I don't even think about blood. I don't think about any of that. Like I just think about the story, the regret, the guilt, all that. That's the stuff that resonates. And then obviously, a couple of those characters like Helen and Ray that I connect to. But honestly, one of the weak parts of this movie is the killer. Like I don't know. Like Ben, he's very bland. When you think
Mhm.
about horror villains, he does not stand out at all. So he's a means to an end at best.
I agree 100%. He is not a memorable killer. The outfit he wears is memorable, but him
Hmm.
himself and his reveal and everything, it's not a very compelling story.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not compelling at all. And I think that's the thing that I have the hardest time with. Again, back to what I said earlier, like I think I would like this film more overall if it had a more compelling villain, and it just doesn't. It falls very flat for me.
Ben Willis was a lifelong fisherman in a small coastal town of Southport, North Carolina. His daughter, Susie Willis, died in a car accident while dating a man named David Egan. David Egan is our man that got hit by the car. Or no, he's not. I'm confusing it. See, this whole thing is a
Yeah,
very convoluted,
very much so.
messy story. No, Ben Willis was hit by the car. David Egan was a quiet, guilt ridden young man who blamed himself for the crash where Susie was killed. And Ben blamed David for the crash 100%. And it was on the 1 year anniversary of Susie's death. Ben did what he thought was justice by murdering David and dumping his body. So, David's body, they think that the person they killed was David Egan, but it's because the body was washed up to shore and it looked like he had committed suicide over the whole incident with the car accident. Very convoluted already. it's, and then just after committing the murder, Ben was walking along the road when he was hit by a car. So this could, I have a little note in here that this could have been karma or whatever have you, but he survives. So it wasn't karma. It shows that karma is not real.
And I hate this sub story, if you will. Like
Yeah.
I don't need this backstory. Sometimes less is more. When I think of like this, I think of like the Halloween franchise. I
Mm-hmm.
prefer the story of the first film when we just have this psychopath who just wants to go out and kill people. I don't want it to be because it's his sister. I don't want any of this crap. So
Mm-hmm.
this movie makes that mistake to me right from the get-go. And I don't know anything about the novel. I'm sure, if that's part of the story, it's part of the story. But I think this movie, again, would have been more effective if this guy was just some dude that
Yeah.
got hit by a car. No backstory. I don't need any of that garbage, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I hate this. Very convoluted.
I think very few people know the sequence of events that led up to this. They just know that Billy Willis was the killer. All this other stuff is like background noise. So, one scene I wanted to talk about when they pushed Billy Willis into the lake, that scene was fucked up. That was another very memorable scene because, they're about to dump his body and they think he's dead, but it turns out he's alive. And he literally grabs at them. He takes Helen's crown and they still shove him in the water.
Yeah, now think about this. And again, it goes back to how would you react if this actually happened? Because now you're scared to death. The guy's grabbing at you. And he now wants to kill you, or at least that's what you think in your mind. So your instinct is to fight back. But instead, you should think to yourself, this dude's not dead. Wait a minute, we didn't kill him. Let's get out of here. Let's call the police. Let's do something. Like, we're off the hook. He's not dead. But they don't think that way. They're like, no, let's end him now.
But at that point, the car accident could have been, that was an accident, manslaughter, whatever, if he had died. But now this is this is basically second-degree murder because know that this person's not dead and you put them in the water when they're in a state when they can't swim and survive. So that's straight up murder now.
And I'm thinking, like, part of it is with this whole sequence, now you almost need this stupid convoluted backstory to prove that this guy's not a good person. So it almost like makes it okay that these kids did this. Because otherwise, if it's just some dude they hit and then he wasn't dead and then they pushed him in the water and essentially murdered him, like you said, now all of a sudden our protagonists are bad people. And now who do we root for? You know what I mean? So it's quite a dilemma.
Yeah. The crown, like the fact that they go back in to get the crown and Helen's like so worried about her crown. I'm like, oh my God. Like that was definitely a moment that you can see like the selfishness and the ego of that character, and that's the main reason she dies.
The final showdown on the fishing boat has some good intensity, and the score's kind of fun because it reminds me just a little bit of Jaws.
Yeah,
just the tempo. I don't know if that's intentional. Maybe they're paying homage. Maybe I don't know.
It's on a boat, right? So it makes
sense.
sense.
Absolutely. And it just seems like they're tapping into that. But like back to what I said, like I think Hewitt is terrible in this final scene. It just doesn't work for me. After the fight, and they finally think they got rid of Ben. Of course, the final like scene in the film, we have her in a fucking towel, which just screams teenage boy fan service for me. But whatever. And then we get the fogged up glass, we get the I still know thing, so now we know there's going to be a sequel potentially. So yeah, it's another horror trope. Again, much like the movie as a whole, I'm a little divided in this last scene. There's little pieces of it that I really like, and then there's other things that I really hate. Like I said, Jennifer Love Hewitt doesn't really work for me. I don't know how well it works on the boat, but it's intense, and I like that about it. And there's times where it's shot extraordinary, great lighting.
Are you excited for the remake?
I'm not at all, honestly. Like when I saw that, I kind of rolled my eyes a bit because I'm like, because I really didn't even need any sequels. Like I think this would have been one of those that I kind of wish was a standalone.
Yeah. So now that we are done with that, I have a game to play with you. I have a spinner, and there are 20 different teen slasher movies, all from like the late 1990s to early 2000s. I can't show you my screen because you can't know what they are. You are going to do a blind ranking. Do you understand?
Okay. Yeah, so you give me it, I have to put it in some position. Not knowing
1 through 5.
What's coming up. Right, gotcha, yep.
Absolutely. 1 being the best, 5 being the worst.
Yep, got it.
All right, so I'm spinning now. And the first one is Urban Legend, which you mentioned that one earlier, so I'm pretty sure you've seen it.
I have seen it. I've seen it a few times. Not my favorite movie. But I know that the late 90s and early 2000s, there's a lot of weak stuff there for me. So Urban Legend, I'm going to put at 4.
4? Okay. I'm actually covering this one this month as well. And I just rewatched it, and there's a lot wrong with it, but it's fun.
It is fun, but there's a lot wrong with it.
All right, The Faculty.
Really like The Faculty. I'm going 1. Love
1, okay. Very few, like no one has done number one this early on. Everyone tries to
Wow.
save the one spot. So
I know,
you're
but
being
I
different.
love The Faculty. I know.
It's a good movie. I still know what you did last summer.
Oh, I am so happy that I saved the 5 spot because it's going there. I fucking hate that movie.
It was.
It's like all the bad things of the from the first film, but it's just all bad. There's nothing good about it.
I won't argue. I will not argue that. I'm spinning again. So you have 2 and 3 open right now. I actually really enjoy this movie, so hopefully you do too. Ginger Snaps.
Oh God, Ginger Snaps is awesome. Funny story, real quick about Ginger Snaps. I thought all these years that I had seen it, and then I decided to do it on my podcast a few months ago with
Yeah.
Nina from Bloody Essentials. And when I rewatched it, I realized, holy shit, I never seen this movie before. I thought it was something different. And then I watched it for the first time a few months ago, and I fucking loved it. It is a great movie, but you know what? I still like The Faculty better, so I'm still good with my number one choice, but I'm going to definitely put Ginger Snaps at number 2 because I really like it.
This is shaping up to be a good list.
I feel like I did pretty well here.
I think you did. All right, last one. So this one's going to go at number 3, right in the middle. This movie is amazing. I don't know if you've seen it, but the movie May.
May is a great movie. Okay, so that's how it worked out. I ended up with number 3 at the end. It actually kind of shaped out good for me, though, because I think I would put May at number 3 because I do enjoy Ginger Snaps slightly more, and The Faculty to me is the best of the bunch. So this ended up working out perfect for me, which hardly ever happens with these blind rankings. So it couldn't have gone much better.
All right, so your list is at number 1, The Faculty, number 2, Ginger Snaps, 3 is May, 4, Urban Legend, and 5, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I feel like that's solid.
It is solid. And listen, if you would have given me those movies not blind and told me to rank 1 to 5, I think that's exactly the way I would have went. So I'm telling you, I got lucky.
Good job. That's hard. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I think that's about it.
Pleasure. It was a blast. Thanks for having me.
What happened to your brother wasn't an accident. There's more to it than that. I know. You know what? Well, he killed himself.
Now it's time for the true horrors of it all. You might recall that I Know What You Did Last Summer is based on a 1973 youth adult fiction book of the same name by author Lois Duncan. You might even remember that Duncan hated the adaptation and spoke against the violence in cinema when it was originally released. But did you know the reason for this was that Lois Duncan's daughter, Kaitlyn Arquette, was murdered in 1989, and the case wasn't solved until August of 2021. In her own words, Lois Duncan grew up as a shy bookworm who sold her first short story at the age of 13. She was accepted to Duke but dropped out when she got married. After divorcing that husband in 1962, she supported herself by writing for greeting cards and pulp magazines before establishing herself in selling novels. Her first book, Ransom, was about a group of high school students being held hostage on a school bus. In 1973, she published I Know What You Did Last Summer, a fairly tame suspense novel, not at all like the slasher movie. Wes Craven directed a TV movie of Duncan's novel Summer of Fear in 1978. Her 1978 novel, Killing Mr. Griffin, considered controversial for the portrayal of students getting revenge against a teacher, was made into a TV movie. Around that time, Duncan sold the film rights to I Know What You Did Last Summer for $150,000 and no claim to any residuals. When the violent adaptation appeared in theaters a few years later, Duncan had harshly criticized the film as worse than bad. It's totally sick. She said, "The gore was beyond belief. I write suspense and scary stuff, but I have never written gore in my entire life. I have never sensationalized violence. It's always been a vehicle to show the pain that violence can cause. There's so little connection to my book in the movie that I don't even know why they ever wanted it." The reason Duncan responded so strongly to the sensationalized slasher version of her work is that between the writing of her horror suspense works and film adaptation, her daughter was murdered. She told the Chicago Sun-Times, "My daughter Kate was chased down and her brains were blown out." So I'm particularly sensitive about desensitizing kids to violence and turning murder into a game. Deeply traumatized by her daughter's sudden death, Lois Duncan stopped writing horror and suspense novels. Her later works were children's books and poetry about losing her daughter. Duncan's daughter, Kaitlyn Arquette, was only 18 and a recent high school graduate when she was gunned down in her car on July 16, 1989. An unskilled police investigation labeled the murder a random drive-by and left the case unsolved for over 30 years. A segment about the murder even appeared on Unsolved Mysteries during the height of the show's popularity. When police arrived at the scene, they found a man named Paul Apodaca standing by Kaitlyn's car. He was never interviewed about that night. 31 years later, Apodaca, probably saying that wrong, confessed to murdering Kaitlyn. He said his motive was hatred for women. He even admitted to reading Lois Duncan's book, Who Killed My Daughter? The startling true story of a mother's search for her daughter's murderer. Sadly, Lois Duncan died in 2016 and never saw justice for her daughter. The production company who made the 1997 film said the fact that Duncan's daughter had been murdered was not well known by the people who made the film. The source material, Duncan's 1973 novel, was written over a decade before her daughter's murder, so there's no way in which the film is based on Duncan's daughter or any kind of true crime story. The ties to real-life crimes in this case only highlight the anguish of a mother whose daughter's murder investigation was egregiously botched by police, understandably giving her a distaste for violence, including later adaptations of her works. Let's end on a high note. Now it's time for my weekly horror update. The new I Know What You Did Last Summer will be in theaters next Friday on July 18th. It seems to be following the same formula as the original, but with 5 friends instead of 4. I will be seeing this in theaters, and I will be getting the case and the souvenir cup. Together Body Horror Movie will be in theaters on July 30th. This one I am legitimately thrilled for. Years into their relationship, Tim and Millie, so it's Dave Franco and Allison Brie, who are actually married, find themselves at a crossroads as they move to the country, abandoning all that is familiar in their lives except each other. With tensions already flaring, a nightmarish encounter with a mysterious unnatural force threatens to corrupt their lives, their love, and their flesh. This one looks exceptionally good. On August 12th, a new film on VOD is being released. It's based on the true story of Russian serial killer Alexander. I can't say the last name. I'm telling you guys right now, I listened to clips of them saying this last name several times. It is a Russian last name. I cannot say it. Wait, I'm just going to play it and hopefully, let me see. Spasivsin. That's how they say it. They say it Spasivsin. So this Russian serial killer, Alexander Spasivsin, is played by Luke Baines as the insatiable murderer in No Tears in Hell. I definitely plan on covering this at some point. It is a horrific story that happened in the 90s. Real fucked up. If you have a movie suggestion that could fit into my category of the month, I would love to get those and maybe watch them, maybe give it a review. I don't know. We'll see. You can email me at screamqueenpodcaster@gmail.com. This is a weekly podcast with new episodes out every Thursday. All the research, writing, and audio is done by yours truly. This is a one-woman show, and I'm doing my very best. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Please, please, please. I can really use the boost. So if you have not left a review, given me a rating or anything, and you're listening right now, please do that because it really helps me out for real. You can find me on Instagram at Scream Queen Podcaster, Blue Sky at Scream Queen Podcast, TikTok at Scream Queen Podcast, and there's a link tree that will take you to my YouTube and Facebook page as well. Remember, when choosing between manslaughter and being slaughtered, just do the right thing and blame it all on Barry. Until next time, goodbye.